Ciao, Mina. Let me pose an easy question followed by a tougher question. First, is Donkey Kong an all-time great game? Answer, almost certainly yes. But second, the tough question. If it's an all-time great, is it as good as another all-time great, say, Red Dead Redemption? Let's face it, Donkey Kong is not without flaws. It has fixed jumps, death from falling from any real height, and a gradually repetitive gameplay loop. A description like that instinctively makes me think those are summations of a good or a 3-star game for me. But it's Donkey Kong, and like it or not, it's an important game, so it should be 5 stars or an all-time great on my rating scheme. But is it Red Dead Redemption levels of all-time great? To answer this, I think we have to look at things in context for their era and genre and how they push gaming forwards, and that's how I rate games, rather than always pitching them literally against each other. That's how I end up comfortable with both those being 5-star games in my opinion. But I have to knock a star for the Famicom Donkey Kong port because it lacks the cement factory stage. This is where today's game comes in, Challenger from Hudson Soft, because it shares some traits of Donkey Kong, especially Donkey Kong Jr., and then adds extra gameplay modes, meaning that it has to be a better and all-time great game, huh? Well, not quite. Challenger was released in 1985 and combines the speeding train stages from Hudson's earlier Stop the Express game that was released on the ZX Spectrum in 1984 and adds new stages. Stop the Express was rated well at the time as an arcadey score attack style of game, so with Challenger boasting far more, it's an even better game, right? Challenger is the multi-stage real-time adventure game, as Hudson called it. You play as Challenger, an adventuring archaeologist who is an expert knife thrower and has a phobia on snakes. Well, actually, they didn't copy the latter bit, but he has been invited to investigate the mysterious Waldorado island off the coast of Rosemary Land by the equally mysterious Chinese person, Recession. That's the last time you'll hear of them, by the way. But oh no! On arrival in Rosemary Land, you find, shock of all shocks, yet another damsel in distress, a Princess Leia lookalike who is actually called Maria, that has been kidnapped by bad guy Don Waldorado, a Darth Vader lookalike. Anyway, I think you get the picture. Even better is that he's the head of a secret organization by the name of Bloody Whacker. I'm not making any of this up. It's in the manual. So you, Challenger, head out to rescue Princess Maria to whack Don Waldorado as he makes his escape towards Waldorado Island on a speeding train. I'm fairly certain the good folks at Hudson had drunk a few Sapporo beers during writing the game's plot, because God, it's delicious nonsense. Okay, let's back up a bit and look at this stage by stage. What we have here are multiple gameplay modes. In effect, it's 3, almost 4 games in one. Scene 1, the express train stage. Scene 2, a 4-way scrolling run and knife section. Scene 3, the keyword caves and pyramids, where you need to find 3 artifacts. And Scene 4, to rescue the princess, which, though similar to the keyword sections, have more in common with a Donkey Kong Jr. stage, though much more simple. Once you have rescued Maria, the game loops but with the difficulty notched up a couple of steps, making this also something of a score attack game. The most notable scene is the second one, as it appears lead programmer Masaki Kikuta took his work on Bungling Bay and brought it into Challenger. The closest to this at the time would have been something like Taito's Frontline or Capcom's Commando, though those strictly scroll vertically. This in itself is pretty inspired for the Famicom in 1985, and the caves offer multiple entry points of exploration. It sounds obvious now, but this is almost the basis of a JRPG overworld stroke dungeon layout. Then you have the Donkey Kong Jr. inspired stages, when you collect the treasures, but especially in the last segment where you need to navigate a fairly simple section of traps and enemies to bring down Don and rescue Princess Maria, and all of this in one game, released in '85 with no mapper chips or fancy hardware. Hats off to you, Hudson. You rose to the technical challenge, but I'm afraid there is a but. In all of these stages, perhaps bar one, there are flaws in the gameplay that bring it down, and one peculiar oversight that affects the whole game. Let's start with the first scene, the Stop the Express stage. For the most part, this plays well, but the jump and attack buttons are switched from their usual arrangements, and this can mess with your muscle memory. Second, enemies get hidden by the exterior framework of the train on entering it, though generally you can still spot them, but you will sometimes be shooting blind. Scene 2, endearingly called Search Princess, surfaces the most flaws in this game. The 4-way scrolling, though impressive for the time, is not entirely smooth itself, but at least it doesn't have the same flaw as Torte's port of Sunsoft's Icky that came about a month later. You don't need to be at the extreme edges of the screen for it to scroll, Other flaws include no invincibility phase on being attacked by enemies, and some of them will attack you relentlessly, and your health can drain to nothing in no time at all. But weirdest of all are the power-ups. On killing 4 enemies in succession successfully, a power-up is dropped, either a power duel, an all-screen clear attack with bonus points, or the power sword. The latter temporarily speeds up your movement and attack power, being the only weapon, apart from the power duel, that will kill the wisps and skeletons that guard the caves. But don't run over the power-ups to collect them. You have to shoot the power-up to gain them, and if you try and run over them to collect them, you'll lose health. What? And the jank doesn't stop there, with insta-death traps during Scene 2, though the Arijigoku or ant lion nest, literally ant hell zone, is a nice touch. But for all of the janky game design, you can roam about and sort of enjoy it actually, in a sort of like, for 1985 they gave this a fair good swing for the stands kind of way. It just so happens that this year's Super Mario Bros. Was so far ahead in general gameplay control and finesse that it made everything else instantly dated, which leads us into Scene 3, the Get Keyword scene. These are the caves or pyramids you enter from Scene 2, and you need to traverse 4 fountains and some wisps to gain a treasure. There are 3 treasures, a key, a crown, and a ring, and the game refers to these as keywords. Gain at least one of all 3 of these and you can enter the final cave where Don Waldorado has Princess Maria hold up. Fail to do so and a boulder will block your path. These scenes have far more in common with Donkey Kong Jr.'s control scheme than Super Mario Bros., in that your jumps are of a fixed distance with no air control, and falling too far will kill you. In addition, the final scene has a peculiar flaw of reversing your jump direction if a platform blocks your forward progress as you jump. But otherwise, it's dead easy to end a play loop when compared to some of Donkey Kong Jr.'s intricacy. Perhaps the most annoying flaw is the difficulty level gauge at the start of the game. It has 2 flaws actually. First, on the lowest difficulty level, the enemies that your standard knife attack can take out won't appear in Scene 2, and whilst no skeletons guard the caves at the easier settings, it does act to make the game even harder, as you'll be totally defenseless against the wisps that chase you down, as you'll never gain a power sword power-up necessary to wipe them out. Next, as you increase the difficulty, all it does is increase the amount and type of enemies, but it's all very random, flinging crap at you style of placement, meaning that the challenger ends up dealing with the random onslaught, rather than having cleverly placed enemy attacks. However, set the difficulty somewhere in the middle, at least level 4, and it's playable. Let's sum up. This is certainly a 2-star or fair game on my rating scheme, but in terms of gluing together different gameplay, it sort of succeeds. Out of the primordial mud of game design, you can see the fundamentals of genres emerging in Challenger, and I really respect that. Technically, it's doing a lot for a 1985 Famicom game, but there are scores of games that are doing technically great things out there, but are a chore to play because they lack the most important thing, gameplay. Challenger is not totally missing in action on that front, because there is some enjoyment to be had here, but its flaws are obvious, and if you can't tolerate them, you'll probably cast this game to one side. But I find despite all of this, I have respect for Challenger, and I even enjoy playing it, but it's not a 3-star game, no way. Hudson Soft were doing some very experimental stuff at this stage, working out what worked well and what didn't on the Famicom, and this kind of experimentation is what set them up for greatness in the years to come. But in fairness, they were already hitting some greatness with their port of Tekkan Star Force in 1985 as well. For what Challenger innovated, I respect it, and I want to point that out to you. But as a game to play in 2025, it's going to take a particular type of oddball retro gamer to find the enjoyment in it, and I guess that's me. As for the accessibility of the game, it's all in English, though slightly off kilter at that, but it does mean the game is totally accessible to non-Japanese speakers, and is a cheap cartridge to pick up. Hudson Soft had a few swings and misses around this time, such as Ninja Hattori-kun and Milon's Secret Castle, and Challenger is in that kind of category of game, but I'm far more likely to play Challenger than those other 2. As always, like, subscribe and all of that shit, and also check out this rad Rubbish Heap merch, available worldwide on Redbubble and Amazon. See the links below for how to purchase. I've been Saki Endo, and this has been a Rubbish Heap. じゃあねーね。
今、ロマンと冒険が君の手に。ハドソンのファミコンアドベンチャーゲーム、チャレンジャー。100画面の壮大なスケール。 難しさは16レベルで自由自在。アクション、パズル、そしてアドベンチャーの興奮を全て叩き込んだすごいやつ。君の使命はレスキュープリンセス。Good luck! by Hudson